gives ignite for the chosen few. He's got the voice, the spirit, and the fire. Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob, taking us higher. He built a palace of cryptids in this lonely space. True Cryptid Encounters, volumes 1 and 2. Coming from the darkness, tell your own tale. He's starting the job out past the setting sun. He's Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob, until the work is done. It's a Bigfoot pirate rock and roll show. On the airwaves, watch the legend grow. Come join the beyond and hear the wild scream. Yeah! Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob. Time to open up your mind. Get ready to rock and roll. Yeah.
Welcome, one and all. If that don't fire you up, I don't know what will. I got to thank Bigfoot Fidesz for putting that together for me. That's fantastic. I like that song, the riff. Me on my pirate ship, mateys. That's right. Speaking of my pirate ship, you can become BMR pirates. Join the many, join the few. That's right, depending on your point of view. Thanks for that. I got a great show. I got Brent Thomas sitting in with me today. Monica's off today, so we got a great show in store for you. It was funny. I was calling Brent last night. We'll talk about it when I bring him up in a minute. I gave him a call. You don't forget about the show tomorrow, and I was live on air on his show last night. It kind of worked out perfectly, so it was kind of funny. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. Don't forget the super chats are open. Mateys. And if you're new, please subscribe to Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob on YouTube. The Blondes and the Booze, Texas Front Porch, of course. Brent Thomas, our paranormal world, the Paranormal Portal. And we got Truth or Tinfoil and Donnie Show. So a whole bunch of us. Go check us out. Hope everybody's enjoying your day. I certainly am. And I got to tell you, though, I've been running this special on my books. Bigfoot, Michigan, Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1 and 2. I know this fellow, a jolly fellow. His name is St. Nick. Might of you probably know him, a.k.a. Santa Claus. We swung a deal where if you get a hold of me via email or on social media, Santa and I are going to pick up the shipping costs for my books. And what's even more importantly, I can sign them for you. I'll sign them for you and I'll get them out. But I got to tell you, I think today in Michigan, they said after today, mail is backed up. So I think by tomorrow, if you want to get it for Christmas, you got to get them today. But I am extending this offer, though, until January 1st to start the new year for that. So how about that? So I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button. If you're new, please subscribe. And with that being said, I'm going to bring up my buddy Brent. Hi, Brent.
Hey, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Pretty good. Thanks for coming on in. I thought that was so funny yesterday. And I was giving you that quick call.
So let me set this up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm doing my show. I'm live. I'm just in the zone. And all of a sudden my phone starts buzzing. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I look at my phone and I know that I'm going to be doing this with Rob today. I'm like, oh, Rob's calling to see if I remember. And which is good because I need all the help I can get. But I thought, oh, you know what? Let's bring him on the show. And so I held it up and put it on speaker right by the microphone here. I said, hey, Rob, you're on the air. He's like, what? So then I said, by the way, Rob, why don't you let everybody know what's going on tomorrow? So it worked out perfectly, like it was planned, but it was really funny because Rob was just taken back. He's like, what?
Yeah, no, I know. I said, did I call your studio line? You go, nope, I just got the one line.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
This is the studio and the home phone. So
Yeah, it all works. All works in unison.
Yeah.
That
So
was pretty cool. It worked out nicely.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just glad that I just didn't say anything right off the bat, out of off color, so to speak.
Yeah. You didn't go full pirate on me. That was good.
No, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But that was funny. It was a neat transition into, and it was actually a perfect drop for letting people know. So
Yeah, that worked out great. If you could only plan though, yeah. And the things you don't plan, the spontaneity is always best.
yeah, absolutely. But thanks for having me back, brother. It's always good to be here.
I always have you back. The format of this show has changed a little bit because on this show, Monica and I have been doing alternating guests on. So, like I told you a long time ago, 4 people. Yeah, I like 3.
Yeah.
And you know how that rolls, but it's no big
Sure.
deal. Monica's she got the day off. She'll be back because next Thursday is actually Christmas. So I won't be on next Thursday.
Fair enough.
So what about you, Brent? Are you all ready for Christmas yet? You got everything you need to do done, or are you last minute guy?
Relative ready is a relative term. Yeah, I the beauty of it is Mrs. Portal has gotten us ready. So yeah, I'm pretty ready, as much ready as I'm going to be. The only thing is I haven't quite gotten Miss Portal anything yet, so I'll probably be doing that around Christmas Eve.
I tell you what, people are gonna call me nuts, but you know what I love doing? Well, on Christmas Eve, we don't go out. I go to my brother and sister's house, sister-in-law,
Mhm.
for Christmas Eve. About we get over there about 5 in the afternoon on Christmas Eve. But you know what I like doing when we're done on the Christmas Eve thing at the house? Maybe we leave out of there around midnight. You know what I like to do?
What's
And
that?
started doing this last couple of years, and I go to Walmart
Oh,
right after midnight. So it's actually the beginning of Christmas Day, right?
okay.
And I just sit there and I just not to buy anything, just to observe everybody and how
The panic shoppers.
yeah, I think this year I was thinking about taking my phone in there and doing a video.
The people of Christmas Walmart.
You never know what you got at Walmart. You might have aliens.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've met a few there. I tell you, and I don't mean to cast aspersions at Walmart. I mean, I go to
Me either.
Walmart all the time,
I love Walmart. Thumbs up.
but I'm here to tell you that a lot of the people that work there just are not enjoying life. You just feel this angst and sadness, and it's like, well, and my heart goes out to them because maybe it's a tough corporation to work for them. I mean, I literally don't know. But yeah, sometimes you go in there and it feels like a joy vacuum, and it's like you're in a Harry Potter episode with those dark beings sucking the joy out of you right when you walk in the door.
Yeah. And it's really not just Christmas time at Walmart. I noticed that too. It's funny you mentioned that because a lot of the people just don't seem happy there.
Yeah, no, they're and granted, I don't think they make probably as good a living as if you worked at other retailers. So
I don't think so either. I mean,
yeah,
unfortunately.
that could suck the joy out of a person real quick too. So
And then you got stuck working Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and there's a million people still in the stores. You just wanted to get the heck out of there.
yeah. I mean, I'm always happy to get the hell out of there, and it's just because I'm really not a shopper anyway. I'm like one of those people that I know what I want. I go to the store that has it, I get it, and then I want to go home. Maybe I'm kind of a hermit, but I don't know. It's my happy place.
No, I tell you what, I like when I go to a store to buy something, I beeline, I know where it's at, I know what I want, and I get it. It's in my cart.
Yeah.
But after I have that done, I kind of like mingling around with people.
Yeah.
Because a couple of years ago, since I have this show,
Mhm.
I oftentimes will walk up to somebody and I'll just start a casual conversation and see where it leads. Because I like to tell them about the show and see if they have any. And I've gotten several stories from folks at the gas station,
Oh, nice.
Walmart, or restaurant. Last New Year's Eve, I was at the restaurant. I talked, and we were sitting at the bar. It was an hour before were seated at your dining table, right, at the
Yeah.
restaurant. And I'm talking to this guy, and we struck up a conversation about Bigfoot for
Oh,
about
nice.
30 minutes.
Oh,
He
cool.
told me an experience he had, which a couple of years ago, I aired it, from the guy who told me. So I get a lot of those experiences. Not a lot. Every once in a while, I'll hit one.
I always thought it would be fun to do something like that, but like with just a cell phone, just do man on the street interviews and just see
Yes,
get some and just put clips together.
I was thinking about doing that as well. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. And
Yeah.
people love seeing that live. You're just randomly walking up to people because it's awkward. Hey, I'm Bigfoot, Mr. Rob. I have a YouTube channel. You're live right now. What's your thoughts on Bigfoot?
Just gonna put them right on the
Put them
spot.
on the spot. They look at you like, what? Are you nuts?
You might want to get their permission before you do
Well,
that.
I do. There's a couple things in today's show, though. And one of the stories that I'm going to share, it was an experience that I had with this guy.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of in relation to a story that I got from a man a few days ago, actually. I get a lot of emails from people and I retell their stories. And this guy sent me this email, which I'm going to read it because typically if I get them, I'll read through them and I'll paraphrase them and do them from memory. But this guy wanted to know about, this guy wanted, he says, Rob, I watch your show. And he goes, I'm trying my hand at being a short story writer. So he
Mhm.
goes, I want you to review this for me and tell me what you think. I'm like, sure, okay. And he says, now, Rob, this is a true story, but I penned it. I'm starting to put together a collection of all my experiences. And
Oh.
so I'm reading, and so I emailed him back. I said, yeah, I'll air it one day. I'll read it for you.
Mhm.
And after I read it, Brent, the guy did a pretty good job writing it. And it's about something that happened to him during Christmas in the 80s. And first of all, I kind of believe this because I have not had a similar experience, but I've spoke with a person that told me a story about gnomes that
Mm.
I'll share a little later. But yeah, so I thought since it is Christmas time and since this is kind of revolves around 19 in the 80s, I thought I'd share it, and then you and I can kind of break it down or whatever, give our thoughts on it.
Absolutely.
So I'll start the show with that. And here's his email. And he says, Rob, my name is Tom, and I wrote a short story for you. I notice how you share a lot of stories on your show. I've been following you for well over a year now. But this is an event that actually happened to me in the 1980s around Christmas time. He goes on to tell me I am compiling stories of my life and let me know about my writing. Let me know if it's good, but rest assured, this did happen. So, and I'm one of these guys, Brent, when I get a story, I don't judge people because
Sure.
everyone has a story. And
Mhm.
I love doing these because then you and I can just kind of,
Yeah.
talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely.
So he titled this The Gnomes of Candlewick Drive, 1987. And then he started down his writing. Goes on. The gnomes arrived 3 days before Christmas. Marjorie bought them all at a mall pop up between a Radio Shack and KB Toys. I remember KB Toys from the 80s.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Their red felt hats already shedding fuzz onto the food court tiles. They're supposed to be charming. Two ceramic garden gnomes in matching green coats with white beards frozen in permanent grins. And this guy's named Tom, but in the story he writes Tom hated them immediately. They look like they're laughing at something, he said, adjusting the rabbit ear antenna on their Zenith television as a Christmas story crackled through the static. The first prank was small. On Christmas Eve morning, Tom found his car keys inside the gnome's tiny ceramic wheelbarrow. He is, yeah, okay. He
Wow.
assumed he'd been careless, too much eggnog perhaps the night before, but Marjorie swore she hadn't touched them, the car keys.
Mhm.
That night, the gnomes were no longer facing the fireplace, they were facing the hallway. By December 26th, the pranks escalated. Margie woke to find all the family photos on the mantle turned face down. The answering machine played a message neither of them remembered recording, just 12 seconds of slow, deliberate breathing, followed by a faint tick like porcelain tapping porcelain. The gnomes stood closer together now. Tom began locking the den at night. It didn't help. One morning, the gnomes appeared in their bedroom, perched neatly on the dresser between Tom's alarm clock and
Jesus.
his Marlboro Reds.
Oh God.
Yeah, the clock blinked 12 endlessly. The radio beside it crackled to life on its own, playing a warped, slowed version down of Silent Night.
Oh.
Tom tried to throw them away. He drove to a rest stop off Route 9, tossed them into a metal trash bin, and watched the lid slam shut. He didn't look back. That evening, the gnomes were back. They were sitting on the couch, legs dangling, surrounded by tinsel that hadn't been there before. The Christmas tree lights flickered erratically, spelling nothing but somehow feeling deliberate. Taped to the television screen was a note written in green crayon. We were only playing. Marjorie began to cry. The final print came on New Year's Eve. At exactly midnight, every light in the house went out. When the power returned, the gnomes were gone. In their place stood two new ceramic figures on the mantle, painted stiff, pale, and unmistakably human. They look just like Tom and Marjorie. Outside in the snow-covered yard, two sets of tiny boot prints led away from the house, disappearing into the dark. The neighbors would later say Candlewick Drive was very quiet after that, except sometimes on cold December nights, faint laughter could be heard, high-pitched, porcelain, and merry. Too merry for me, Rob. I hope you enjoyed that. Signed, Tom. I did enjoy that, Tom. Well written, a great story, and but there's so much happened in this. I don't know what was maybe make believe and what was real.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. It's like, oh my God, this is Hollywood. I mean, it's just off the charts.
I'm like, Tom, you should take this and shape it into a movie script for the holiday season, right?
Yeah. I mean, it really would play well. It really would be, because it wasn't really nefarious. It was just prankstery.
Prankstery, yeah.
Yeah, it was just mischievous.
Very mischievous. And I think that gnomes in some situations from folklore and from people I've spoken with. Thank you, Gary Pops. Awesome super chat. I love you, Mr. Spike Sr. Thank you so much for that, my man. So, a lot of gnomes written in folklore, as I was saying, and this, Brent, I mean, a lot of people, and I'm going to share on something that someone told me that I met at a gas station, by the way.
Mhm.
I think some of this story, though, is plausible because I've heard people say, especially if you go back to the myths of the Fae,
Mhm. putting
putting life into some of the certain objects.
Sure.
And I think that part of this, although maybe, a little overboard, I'm not discounting parts of the story. What's your take on it? Do you think gnomes come to life? Do you think there's something magical about the gnomes?
I'm not sure that's the figurine. I mean, any figurine could be cursed or have an enchantment or some kind of magic applied to it, depending on your schools of thought. But there's many esoteric practices out there where maybe the actual object doesn't come alive, but it may come with an energy that can do things in the vicinity of it. And those are pretty common in a lot of occult practices, creating things like that. But I believe that there's things like gnomes in the world. There by all counts, they're somewhere between the spiritual and the physical in what they are. Like the red caps, which are the most common depictions that we have with figurines, actually hate us. They hate human beings. Like they if they see you, they just want to raise hell. And they're not friendly and cute. There's other versions of them, like house elves, like you hear about in Harry Potter. Well, a house elf is actually a thing where, and in Slavic cultures, it's called a domovoi, or other such names, but they are these presences that come with houses, and they can be kind of like a caretaker of sorts. And it's it's a really great idea, but I'm not so sure that figurines themselves come to life, but
Okay.
it wouldn't surprise me much to know that there was some kind of a spell work or something done, or a binding done to these things in a pop-up mall location. Like, hey, let's screw with the people, and they brought them home and had a lot of weird crap happen.
I agree with you. I also think, though, that I don't think a ceramic figurine comes to life, but I think when it comes to these objects, gnomes or whatever, I think that I think they are present and visible, but more in a spiritual or magical form.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Like you're pretty much that's pretty much summing up what you said.
Mhm.
And I think that there are people out there that can practice this magic. Some
Sure.
nefarious and some not, and some just, I mean, because I believe in the fairies and the fae. Monica, she really is into that,
Yeah.
and she's told me so many things about it that I
Mhm.
think that's something that, I mean, if we're open to Bigfoot, Dogman, aliens, and UFOs, why not the fae, the fairies, the gnome,
Right.
mythology?
Yeah.
So
And I think that, a lot of hauntings may very well be some form of elemental or fey presences, and not necessarily dark spirits or, things like that. Because I think, the term ghost is kind of a throwaway term, and it's a blanket term. But I think that there's a lot of things that we experience as a spiritual energy that never necessarily were human, but they still exist in the world around us. So, yeah.
I do believe in that. I do. And again, with these objects, okay, it always reminds me of, and you've heard this story before. I don't know if I've gotten your take on this. You remember when my wife and I, years ago in our early 20s, mid 20s, we were collecting all these artifacts, all these
Mhm.
creepy looking statues, figurines, whatever it was, just odd looking things. And then remember, I was telling you, and a lot of the people that follow the show have heard this before, about after we had them collected in a room, then we were setting up a room for them. We bought curio cabinets. And as soon as we took them out of the garage and out of all the boxes and placed them, within a week, negative energy in the house.
Mhm.
The wife was doing bad at work. We weren't talking to each other, and we
Yeah.
just had these bad vibes. And then after about a week or so into this, I seen a shadow figure in one of my rooms, in a dark, pitch black room, where a shadow figure darker than darkness appeared.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
And then it got to the point where I was seeing shadows out of my peripheral vision during daytime. And then I finally had to tell my wife, I said, "Look, I gotta tell you something. I don't know if I'm going crazy, but here's what I've been experiencing." And then she said, "Oh my God, Rob, I didn't want to tell you it either, but I've been experiencing the same sorts of things." And then we kind of said, maybe that's why we've had this negative. I think in the day I didn't use negative vibrations or energy because I was not astute in the paranormal. But I
Sure.
said, this is why everything is upside down for us, I guess.
Yeah.
She goes, yeah, maybe this is something, but we didn't think about but I should backtrack. We didn't think about our objects. We knew nothing about paranormal.
Right.
And then, but however, I remember coming home from work and she had one of those mediums or a ghost hunter, something like that back in the days, a long time ago,
Sure.
that walked through the house. And when they entered, everything was fine. So they went into the room with our collections and immediately said, this is the source of what your problems are right here. Because she
Yeah.
could pick up something. So
Mhm.
long story short, then when we got rid of it, everything went away, right? So I guess the moral to that tale, what happened to me is there are objects out in the world in these antique shops, thrift shops that have come from a place where maybe a spell was cast on or something bad happened. and you hear about, the doll in Florida. I forgot the name of them. That's supposed to be evil, but all these evil things, Annabelle, all this stuff. So I think that happens today too.
Mhm. Yeah, I think if you want to get a haunting, one of the quickest ways is to go thrift sailing all the time and buy stuff, because one of the most common sources of thrifting materials that you'll buy are from deceased people's possessions. Now, if they love those possessions, they can come with an energetic attachment, and it's not necessarily nefarious. It's just, if like a guy was a bastard and he loved his golf club, and you went to a thrift store and you bought this antique golf club, and you might be bringing some of his energy into your home, which can have a consciousness of its own. So I would always be careful bringing objects into your house, especially pre-owned, because you don't know the environment it came from. You don't know if it's coming with an attachment, with some sort of intentional attachment or unintentional attachments. But both of those can manifest in very negative ways in our home. Your home is your sacred space, and you have to guard that. And that includes people, and letting people in your house. People can drag in their attachments, and they can maybe like your house better and want to stay instead of going back with that person. So just always be careful about cleansing your space.
That's a great point. And, I'm kind of leery about, especially since we've been doing this since 2018, really. I'm very leery of strangers. I don't have strangers in my home, but I can tell you, 2 years ago, my buddy was having a party for one of his kids graduated from high school, I think it was. And he has one of the friendliest dogs in the world.
Oh,
And this dog would come up to you, jump on you, lick you, just want to play with you.
Mhm.
And I guess there was this one couple that my buddy didn't really know who they were, because the party was kind of a random, it turned into a big party. Okay. There was people out of the woodwork showing up here. And this one couple, particularly the man or that dog, ran up to him at first, very playful. Then this dog, and I known this dog for 5 years, never heard him growl once. He met this guy. The guy reaches down to pet him, and all of a sudden, this dog, the hair on his back stood.
ooh,
He growled, and my buddy was quite embarrassed. He said, "Oh my god!" And he got mad at his dog.
mhm.
And then I pulled my buddy aside because now I'm more aware of everything, right? And I said, "Man, there's something about that dude is creepy. That dog does not do that, and animals have great instincts."
Mhm. No.
I said, "I'm not telling you what to do, but let's watch this guy." And so I had a creepy vibe about this fellow, and I guess the party ended, and I guess his son Jacob knew about this guy and the family, because it was one of his buddies from school was there, but knew about his dad. Then he told me and Brian, my buddy, about the guy. So the guy that came over was released from prison and allegedly was in for some nefarious crimes. I don't want to get into what he got. It was
Sure.
he was in prison for like over 10 years. I
Yeah.
said, that's what it was. He's still a bad dude, and the dog picked up on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think dogs are great, and animals are great judges of character. Usually, there can be some dick animals too. I mean,
Oh yeah, there are.
but if it's a very gentle, loving animal, and suddenly it's acting very aggressively, hell yeah, tune into that, because that animal's telling you something.
Yeah, they have great senses.
Yeah.
They can see and sense things we can't, or the average person, I should say. Going back to the gnome thing, I was telling you about how I like trying to get stories from people every once in a while in the public. And I was at the mobile gas station, and this is like last year, whatever it was. And so I ran into this guy. I'm filling gas. I ran into this guy I haven't seen in over 10 years. And we make eye contact. He goes, "Rob." I go, "Yeah, Bill." "Yeah, hey, what's going on, man?" So we pumped our gas. We pulled our cars aside. And so we started just chit-chatting about, we went to high school, old times. How you doing? What are you doing for a living? You married, got kids, the whole 9 yards. And so I told him that, yeah, I have a podcast, and I'm like, and I said, well, I'm going to tell you what I do. You're probably going to roll your eyes at me because most people do. I talk about paranormal stuff, Bigfoot, dog man, I run the whole gamut.
Yeah.
And he looks at me, and I'm expecting him to kind of, okay, whatever, dude, type of thing.
Yeah.
He goes, "Are you serious?" He goes, "What's your experiences?" I said, "Well, I've had a lot of paranormal stuff. I've seen a Bigfoot." He goes, "Man, I'm glad I ran into you." He goes, "You got a minute?" And I says, "Well, yeah, what's up?" Because as it turned out, from the gas station we were at, his house was maybe about a 5-minute ride. So he says, "Can you come to my house?" I go, "Well, yeah, sure." So he takes me to his house. And again, I knew the guy from high school, so it's not like I wasn't really creeped out by the guy. He was very cool. And so we're in his backyard. Now, his backyard, Brent, leads up to a cemetery. And
Okay.
at the fence line, he had these garden gnome collectibles. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, he goes, I got a story for you, and I want your take on this. I go, okay. He goes, you see how all these gnomes are lined up here? I go, yeah. And they were pretty cool. They were different. Some were creepy, some were just, kind of pleasant, right? I
Yeah.
said, he goes, I don't know if it's kids, and he goes, or I don't know if it's spirits from the cemetery, but he says, every morning I wake up, and it's been going on for several weeks. The gnomes in the morning are all out of place, like somebody moved them around.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking right off the bat, well, maybe kids. And then he was telling me stories about the cemetery, how he thinks it's haunted. He's seen ghosts or apparitions in the cemetery
Mhm.
floating, not like a ghost, but he'd see like strange mist and light,
Yeah.
very transparent.
Mhm.
And he says, you think that these ghosts, if they are ghosts, are playing around? I said, well, number one, I think my first thing logically is maybe it's just kids playing a prank.
Sure.
And so he says, yeah, I thought that too. But then he says, if you notice, and he follows me right back to his back porch, and there was imprints of like little feet in dirt, like little impressions with mud and some in the grass that I couldn't really see the ones in the grass, but on the deck I could. And it was like footprints, and I'm thinking it was, well, probably squirrels. By the cemetery, there's a creek, and every once in a while, a rat or a raccoon will run through. So
Mhm.
I kind of put it off as maybe being an animal. But the impressions that I did see, and I'd seen these firsthand, they did seem off to me. And so he had asked me if maybe these gnomes or fairies or whatever he had were given life from the cemetery. I said, I don't know about all that. I'd have to investigate that, but yeah, so we got a situation going on at the cemetery. There's a lot of energy in the cemetery. Maybe there's ghosts playing pranks on you. I don't think, again, referring back, I don't think your gnomes came to life. I think that something is playing a trick on you, though.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see, how big are those footprints?
They're about, when I looked at them, they're about maybe an inch and a half long, half-inch wide, but very odd looking. At first I thought, because they looked like hands, they kind of remind me of a raccoon, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
some were kind of off. But a raccoon's prints are a little bit bigger than that. They're
Right.
kind of minute, an inch and a half.
Yeah. And I can't see a raccoon bothering to line up a bunch of statues. I mean, that's probably not wildlife doing something like
No,
that.
but you would think, well, they're rearranged in a fashion where they were standing up. I can see a raccoon knocking them over or running. I can see any little rodent running through and knocking them over.
Yeah.
I
But
mean, the figurines are so tall.
yeah, I guess it's certainly possible. It's not impossible, but it's fascinating that, again, I think something's trying to let them know that they're there. And you're right. I think the cemetery is probably the big culprit, because for whatever reasons, and I've often pondered this, like why are cemeteries such focal points for energy that sticks around, like earthbound energy, or Is it just fragments of the soul that kind of stick around, or what is it? Or is it something else entirely that was never human, but it's focused on our remains or something? And I don't know, but definitely cemeteries are consistently hot spots for at least some activity.
I think so. And water is always a great source. Audacious Amber. Hi, Amber. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. He says, if there's underground water, it's little people. Well, I didn't think about little people, but water is a source, a conductor of energy for sure.
Spiritual and yeah, and esoteric energy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Tex and Pops is in the chat room. They could talk about paranormal stuff in Brown Springs because the cemetery has got that the water runs underneath it. And they always and Tex has more paranormal incidents. He's had Bigfoot incidents too, but at that Brown Springs area that they research.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think water is a great resource or conductor of all this stuff.
Yeah, water and limestone together seem to be real, almost like energy factories for weird stuff to happen. And of course, water has also been considered a conduit of spiritual energy forever. I mean, it's baked into many customs around the world that water is, sacred and is a flow for spiritual energy.
Absolutely. Have you heard? I know you do on your podcast and on your YouTube show. What are some of the things that you can relate to with any stories you've heard from guests or that you've found online that utilizes that ties together the water and these little people or these gnome activities? Anything you can recall? Not to put you on a spot. If not, we can move on. But I find it fascinating. I like hearing these stories.
No, I don't. I can't think of anything right off the hand of direct correlations of that. But I think it's just commonly regarded in a lot of spiritual practices that water is a key element to spiritual energy or a conduit for it. But I used to have a guest come on my show, and she was a wonderful lady. She's unfortunately passed away now, but her name was Robin Moonshadow, and she was.
Wait a minute, hang on. She passed away.
Yeah, she did. She had a battle with cancer.
Yeah, okay. I had been in conversations with her like last year to come on the show, and she told me about her situation.
Yeah.
And I reached out to her maybe 2 months ago. I don't know when she passed, and I didn't get a response back.
Yeah.
So that's sad news. Robin was on my show twice.
Yeah.
Oh no.
She was a doll, just a sweetheart. But yeah, she did pass away, and it's a sad loss. But she was a brilliant resource. She did a lot of research into the proto pygmies, which is what she referred to those things like gnomes and pukwudgies and duende and any other of the like the menehune in Hawaii and all of that. And she regarded them very much as physical, though. She just thought that they were so fast, able to move so fast that they seemed like they weren't real. And maybe there's something to that. I certainly don't know, but she told me several stories through the years. One of which was that there was this homeowner, and I'm going to be paraphrasing this terribly, but a homeowner had a lot of weird things going on in his house, and couldn't really understand what the hell was going on. But he would like he would like see things darting around his house, little things, not like a human size apparition or something, but little things, little foot, 2 feet maybe, darting through his house. And it's like, what's going on? This is very strange. And then he started to notice a pattern starting, and it was he would like go to work and shut off his computer and stuff, go to work, come home, and his chair was moved and the computer was on. And then the window would be open. And he's like, what's going on? What's going on? And I don't remember exactly how he pegged it as, oh, this is a little person. But I think he actually saw it one time when he came home, like freaking out and jumping out the window. Like it was on this internet surfing, according to her. And I realize that's a big stretch. But I mean, if these things are at all intelligent, they could watch how we do things and see what we're doing and kind of learn by example, and then just get in there and start screwing with things. And apparently it learned how to turn on the computer and surf the web because it was like on, watching videos and stuff. So, and it's a fascinating proposition because what do these things learn? With the gnomes and stuff, they're very humanoid, really, in a lot of regards. Like they're regarded as, through history as these, professionals like cobblers and farmers and stuff. So it's not like they're idiots. Just I'm a, a gnome. I don't know anything. They had their own societies in our folklores and stuff. And so why couldn't they watch what we're doing with our tools and kind of mimic that and figure it out? I think they could. If they're really out there, why not?
Absolutely. I think a lot of these creatures or little people or anything, Bigfoot, they're super intelligent. They mimic us all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
I gotta say, Brian, I was a little taken aback. I didn't know. I knew about Robin. I'm just kind of saddened now with this news because I knew about what you had going on because I'd spoken with her, never met her in person.
Yeah.
Like I met you in person finally, but over the computer, like doing a show. And oh yeah, she was fantastic. She was such a great guest, so a wealth of information on the subject, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, that's
actually, I just speaking of Robin for a second, if you don't mind.
yeah, I know, go on.
I loved her dearly. She was just a wonderful person, but she actually taught me a lot about interviewing because she's much different than most guests. And I realized after that, I'm like, wow, she answers question, but you're expecting more. And so I'd have to come in and do that. But what I realized is that she was a very thoughtful communicator.
Yeah.
And she has these natural pauses that I was interrupting her all the time, thinking, oh, it's a lot of dead air. I got to jump in and say something. And all of this time. And I once I finally figured that out, I just sit back and let her talk. And it was amazing. She's just had so much information, but I kept interrupting her thinking, oh, dead air, got to talk. And
well, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So I actually learned a lot about interviewing from her in a very indirect way.
Yeah. Well, again, prayers out to the family over there. That's kind of a little bit of a shocker for me. But so yes, so that's we'll move on. Wow. So here's something I want to get into. I'm going to tell this. I want your take on this. It's about a couple guys, a couple friends. I got this story last year, 2 years, and it's about. This takes place in upstate New York in the Shindagan National Forest, Brent. It's about these two young guys, little boys growing up together.
Mhm.
They live several miles apart, but they went to the same school system, and they always played together. And of course, they had the forest as their backdrop, right, of where they live.
Mhm.
Not necessarily the Shindagan. Takes place a little later in the show or in the story, but they would hang out and right around the age of 6 or 7. Their names were Luke and Steven, okay,
Mhm.
and together both these kids were kind of I don't like to use the word outcasts, but they were different,
Mhm.
and they were pretty much, I guess it would be bullied back then. And so but they had each other, right? They were the two friends growing up.
Mhm.
And as Luke is telling me this story about his friend Steven, one night he was out they were out on a picnic table and all these animals were coming up around the picnic table. And they kind of hovered more around Steven than Luke, which Luke thought it was odd. All these animals just came out and like rodents, squirrels, raccoons, a lot of chipmunks, and the animals fled, left, and Luke goes, "Wow, that was pretty bizarre, Stephen. How all these animals kind of came up to you." And he says, "I got to tell you, Luke, that this has been weird. Started experiencing this at my house." That he goes, "I think that they're kind of communicating to me in a sense."
Oh, neat.
And so I'm talking to this guy. I said, "Really? What do you mean by communicating?" it would just tell them about how you're part of Mother Nature, just these odd things. And these are younger guys talking about this, so they're getting the verbiage from something else because the things he was telling me, I can't see a 6 or 7-year-old coming up with. Several years down the road, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, when they're maybe 12, 13, this Steven started telling Luke little more details now about how he's still not communicating with these animals, and it's now gotten even deeper with like deer, wolves, coyotes. Okay. And he was telling that they were telling Stephen to warn the friend Luke that he should never go in the forest
Oh.
for whatever reason. So he's now scaring his son, his friend. So now Luke and him, they got in a fight. He says, "Why are you telling me this? You're scaring me." And then the mom and dad, um, then Luke told the mom and dad what Stephen was saying about the friend, and they got all mad and everything, and they called the parents. And he said, "Boy, these two guys are great friends, but our son does not want to hang out with this guy anymore. He's scaring him, saying the forest is going to get him," something to that effect. So it was forbidden for these two kids to see each other. The mom and dad says you can no longer see with him if he continues on. And they gave him a break. They gave him an opportunity, but this kid would continue to tell him stories about the danger of the woods,
Oh.
how he was being communicated this, and he never got this.
Mhm.
Stephen, this Luke doesn't understand, and I don't understand it either. So I'm listening to this guy. So anyway, Luke stops being his friends with this guy, and they go on their separate ways.
Mhm.
So doesn't see his friend for maybe 3 or 4 years. And then when Luke graduated from high school, his father got him a job in this Shindigan as a logger. He went on to tell me that, yeah, he didn't go to college. He didn't quite have the grades. And his dad set him up with a great job. And so he starts working in the Shindigan National Forest, upstate New York. And he worked there for maybe a year. And he's a little bit older. And he remembers on his pathway to get to the forest there's an exit that goes to his old friend Steven's house. So he says, "Rob, one day I had decided, I haven't seen my buddy in X amount of years, and we were good friends. And he did scare me, but now he's a man, he's older. So he wanted to stop by his house because he hadn't seen him to see if he was there still." So he tells me, "Hey, Rob," so I pull up the driveway of his home, and he says, "Rob, it was all overgrown with shrubbery. It's almost like the forest was taking over the home. Nothing was unkept. The yard, always manicured, was just a mess. And again, it's in the woods." And he says, "Wow, the driveway was overgrown." So he said he got this weird feeling. So he says, "Rob, so I got out of my truck." He said, I think he told me he got a Jeep Wrangler as well as part of his graduation present to take to work. So he had no car at the time. So he goes in, knocks on the door, tries to look in the door, knocks on the door. No answer, no answer. Doesn't see any vehicles or anything. So he decides now, well, he's going to leave. As he's turning around to walk back to his truck, the door opens. And a voice says, "Hello." He turns around and he sees that it's Steven's grandmother, now a lot older, right? And she goes, "You're Luke, right?" She says to this guy, to Luke, goes, "Yeah, I am Luke." She goes, "Oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. Come on up to the house. I'll invite you in the house." So he goes in the house. He says, "Rob, the house was kind of in disarray. This old woman's living by herself," is what he's gathering.
Mhm.
And so he goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I remember you and Steven used to play." I said, and then he said, "Yeah, where's Steve's mom and dad?" Because they used to live there. And I guess the parents had passed away at a younger age. And the
Oh.
grandmother was now taking care of Steven until he got to adulthood and moved on.
Mhm.
And then he asked the grandmother, "Where is Steven at? I like to come say hi to him." And she says, Stephen is one of the woods. He's an element of the woods today. He goes, what do you mean? Well, what do you mean by that? He lives in the forest. And so Luke is like, oh, he's just kind of, because he figured, again, Stephen a loner, kind of odd, much like he was. Maybe he decided that's his thing. So she goes, yeah. And she goes, Stephen visits me from time to time. And he tells me that he's always thinking about you. And then she said to Luke that Stephen says he watches him while he's at work in the Shindiga National Forest.
Oh.
And Luke is like, what do you mean? He's watching me. She goes, yeah, he knows where you work. And if you remember what he was telling you long ago, that the animals said you had no business being in that forest where he works now. So all these stories he was telling him about to stay out of the woods, it was danger. So this Luke is now kind of like reeling, remembers the stories that Stephen told him, remembers how the animals allegedly was telling Stephen about he has no business in the forest.
Yeah.
And he says, well, what do you mean, though, that Stephen's watching me? She goes, yes, he's one of the forest. He watches you and protects you.
Oh, wow.
And he says, well, when does Stephen come visit you? She goes, he pops in month to month. He goes, in fact, I bet you he's going to come here and see you today. He goes, oh, you just guessing? She goes, no, I know. She goes, wait, if you got a few minutes, wait around. So this young man is like getting a little creeped out. Now, Brent, I think I'd be getting a little creeped out, especially, what this older grandmother's telling and how it's kind of coinciding with the stories of the childhood. So he's getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden, in through the back door is this man. And he can't really make out who he is. And as he comes down the hallway, doesn't look like Stephen, but it's a man. He says, Rob, this guy has long hair, scraggly beard. And he comes up and he says he was a mess. He had like tattered clothes on, looked like a hobo, he's telling me. He comes up, he smiles. He says, man, his teeth look like he hadn't seen a dentist in all these years. And he kind of had a smell of the forest. He stank. And Luke says, Stephen? He goes, shakes his head. He doesn't say anything. He's not speaking. Reaches out his hand to shake the guy's hand and noticed that they were very big hands. And he had it seems like Rob, his fingernails hadn't been clipped in years. He said he was frankly Rob nasty looking. And he says, quite frankly, he was scary. And he says, Stephen, man, do you speak? And the grandmother says he's going to speak. Give him a moment to take it all in. So he's like, okay. And again, he's freaked out, Brent. So Stephen now speaks to Luke and says, hi, good to see you, friend, or something to that. I don't know what he says. And they're having a little conversation. So he goes, what do your grandmother says you're a man of the woods? You live in the woods? Yes. Does she tell you that I also watch over you and protect you? He goes, she did. And then Stephen says, well, remember the stories I told you about talking? I was speaking with the animals and they said that you had no business in the forest. He goes, yeah, that's why we no longer became friends. My mom and dad said, no, we're done. And quite frankly, I was scared of you. And he goes, right now, I'm a little freaked out over you right now, Yeah. He goes, I've been watching you because you have no reason there and you should get a different job and move out. And he goes, I don't get it. He goes, well, he says, they want you. He goes, what do you mean they want you? The forest. He goes, I know that you're not going to do what I asked, so continue on. I will continue to protect you. I'm not going to break through to you, apparently. After several hours of conversation, I imagine. I'm just, paraphrasing most of the story. So as they get to leave, Luke says, I'm getting the hell out of here. Says hi, bye to the grandmother. Says bye to Stephen. And Stephen turns around. He says, Rob, I kid you not, as I'm leaving, Stephen starts walking toward the wood line. He says he's walking like a human being. And then he says, maybe about 20, 30 yards out, he says, I'm get down on all fours and start running like some wild animal on all fours. Says he doesn't see him shapeshift or churn in anything, but he says he ran on all fours faster than a human being on two legs and ran all the way into the woods. And right before he left, he says, Rob, I heard the loudest roar and howl of a wolf that I've ever heard in my life. Turned around to the grandmother, and she says, that's Stephen. He's one with Mother Nature.
Wow. So he's like a skinwalker.
He's something.
Yeah. Or I don't know. That's a wild story, huh?
Yeah.
So, but I it almost sounds like the way the grandmother regarded this, the way he regarded it himself, the Stephen guy, that there's some First Nations observation there or practice, and that's why I said skinwalker, because it's like they seem pretty peaceful about the whole idea that he's of nature, and like it was just a matter of course, not like, yeah, he's off his meds, he's out in the woods again, you know. I mean, it was just, oh, he's of nature, so it's like cultural almost, right?
I think so. I think that this kid long ago knew that's what his path was.
Yeah.
Maybe like being a half-ass mountain man. I mean, I don't know.
Well, he might be full ass by the way it sounds of it.
Yeah, and then I think the grandmother sounds to me she has psychic abilities of some sort, or there was something. And it's interesting you bring up about the background. I don't know. It wasn't brought to my attention the nationality or anything. Maybe that doesn't make much of a difference. But
I don't know if it does or not. I mean, there's certainly Celtic legends of skinwalker or transformation, animism, if you will. It's a global phenomena or legend. It's certainly not exclusive to the First Nations, but there's certainly a regard for that in the First Nations, and just the idea that the grandmothers was all in on it. Wonder what happened to the parents, that they both passed, but not that, you know, Stephen ate his parents or anything, but you know, I mean, it just makes you, there's all kinds of questions, but it just seems like it to me, as I was listening to that, I'm like, oh, they must be First Nations. They must be. And that's wonderful, because I think First Nation is, you know, it's a culture that's balanced with nature historically. And these are people of a high earth or natural IQ. So.
Yeah, and I found it interesting that he didn't like tell me, you know, he didn't specify he turned into a werewolf,
right,
or shifted. He couldn't really see, but he thought it odd. He ran like lightning on all fours, and then the howl. And you mentioned Skinwalker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a Skinwalker can shift into anything that they want.
Yeah, I mean the traditions for shamanism in First Nations is that they could become birds, they could become elk, they could become wolf, you know, so there's variables there. Skinwalkers generally, as a term, refers to someone turning into some kind of canine, like a dog man kind of thing. But I don't think it's limited to that. I just think that that's the most common observation of it.
And the Skinwalker, though, everybody gets that connotation that it's evil or bad. Not all skinwalkers have bad intentions, or do they? They can just shift into an animal form, perhaps.
So in the Navajo traditions, the skinwalkers were actually the heroes, because they were kind of like a sister tribe or a partner tribe to the normal Navajo and part of the community, but they rallied alongside of the Navajo, the ancient Navajo, to fight against the Spanish. And they won. They pushed them back and saved their lands and stuff. And so they were regarded as the heroes for many generations. But then I guess they got corrupt on their own power, and so it just kind of got dark according to the Navajo traditions. And they became these witches and evil, wicked people, according to the Navajo observations. Now, I've heard of many people confronted by Skinwalker, and it's almost more like in your face, like, oh, look at me, I can do this. But I don't know that they're always nefarious, but I certainly think that they're regarded as pretty negative, generally speaking.
Do you think that? Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's why I thought too, Brent. Do you think that maybe though this guy, if he lived in the woods, he's almost became a domesticated man or a little boy into a feral person almost? Is there a difference between
Yeah.
you and I cannot become feral? I mean, what would be the definition of a feral person?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of in the First Nations as well. There is a shamanistic path that causes initiates to have to go live ferally in the woods. In other words, living wild. You're not going to stores. You're not, taking showers and getting your washed clothes. You live wild for like 2 years or better in order to become a full medicine man. And so there is plenty of instances of people living ferally without transforming into something else. But it's kind of like in magical traditions. There's a thing called invocation, and there's a thing called evocation. Now, evocation is when you pray for protection and ask the angels to come. That's like an evocation. You're asking for protection and to help fight your battles. An invocation is to pray for something to come into you and to be, in your energy and to manifest inside of you. And I think that, I don't know why I brought that up other than that.
No,
I assume that in order to, transform, I'm sure there's a lot more to it than just invocation, but that they have to invite an energy into them, and a natural energy, maybe at that, like a spirit of the wolf come into me or whatever. And I'm just guessing at all of that, but
yeah. The thing about this whole thing, and I asked this guy, and he even said to me, he says he has no idea. The thing that, okay, we got the alleged skinwalker or shapeshifter with his buddy. We get it. He lives off the land. He's one with Mother Nature. The grandmother's got something going on. The thing that bugs this guy when I was talking to him, it kind of bugs me because I'd like to know the answer is why. Seems like a perfectly normal human being. This Luke guy,
Mhm.
Lives pretty much in the forest, in the upstate New York. Works now in that Shindagan National Forest. The thing that's the mystery, though, is why would Steven say that the forest, or however he worded it, I don't remember, said it. Luke was in danger of the forest, and why was he protecting him? Is there something about this guy that I don't understand? That's kind of odd, just to say that, hey, the forest,
Yeah,
stay out of the forest. You're in danger. Sure, we're all in danger if we go in the forest and we don't know where we're at. There's always a possibility of danger, but it almost sounded like
he was
something
targeted.
sinister or dark was going on.
Yeah.
Keep him out of.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either. I don't know. I don't know if the forest has its, the wild places have their own collective consciousness, and or what that means. I don't know, but it is maybe it was just that his energy wasn't right for the forest. I don't know. Maybe it was more that, but that was how he interpreted it. That he doesn't really fit into the natural places. He should stay out because he's going to be a target of the wild things around. I don't know. I can only guess.
No, it's just kind of convoluted. I mean, I understand that, and I'd be wondering why they don't want me in the forest, and then
Yeah.
where do you seek the answers?
Yeah.
Apparently, he didn't get it from his buddy.
Yeah.
But do you
Although,
think?
I do I think it's interesting that I can't imagine if there is and I believe there probably is something to this, that there are, energy of places like that has a consciousness. Certainly houses can, become actualized and have a consciousness at, some points. But I suppose that of all the people in the forest that the forest doesn't like, probably the loggers are the least favorite, so, I bet they're not really, yeah, I
I
don't
know
think,
Bigfoot don't like them.
yeah,
The
Mother Nature,
loggers don't like Bigfoot either. Let's
yeah,
face facts.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's pretty crazy that if there is a spirit of the forest, it's probably hating on some loggers,
I'm
really.
sure, big time
Yeah.
hating on the loggers. What's your take on these folks that claim that they can communicate with animals?
Yeah, I think it's a thing. I think animals are sentient, and I think it's a form of telepathy, but it's probably more based on empathy than it is on a language. But I think if you think about our thoughts, our thoughts don't exist as words. They exist as impulses, and we form them with words because that's how we interpret it to our conscious mind. But I think that those people, there are people that can communicate with animals. I absolutely believe that. I think that I can't tell you the number of times being a pet owner that I've just sat around and I've thought, oh, maybe the dog needs to go outside. And all of a sudden she starts wagging her tail.
You know what? Yeah.
And that's a telepathy. That's a communication. So I think that there are people that are much more tuned into that and gifted and can, catch, the glimpses and energies that these animals are communicating and able to interpret it into our words. So, yeah, I think it's real.
Yeah, communication just it does not have to be telepathy all the time, right? It can be just spoken word. Like you can, if you know your pet long enough and you look at them, they look at you a certain way, you know what they want. Or if
Sure.
you look at your pet a certain way, they know what your meaning is.
Yeah.
I always thought it would be fascinating to get inside the mind of let's say a dog, your personal domesticated dog, and wonder what they're thinking, how they think. Do they think with words in their mind? Like, I think it'd be cool. I think everybody, this is gonna sound dumb, Brett, but I like to know what like your pet thinks of you. Oh, Rob, you're a jackass. Oh, I love you. You know what I mean? I always found that fascinating to get inside the mind of a dog and
Have
how
you
they
ever,
think, how they see.
have you ever, I mean, obviously you've loved and love is a word, but it's a feeling,
Yeah.
and I think that that's what our dogs and our
Yeah.
cats, they exist that way. But I've also had plenty of experiences in my life where I've met someone and for some reason I don't like them and I can't put it into words why, but it's like it's an energy
Their
thing.
pet, you mean?
No, people, like, just I'm equating that with people.
Okay.
Like, there's no words that are being transferred, but I just know there's something about this person I don't want near me.
Yeah,
It's an
no.
energy thing. So I think that's mostly how dogs exist. I think that maybe between them there can be a telepathy or I think it's more like an empathy. Like they are totally cued into our energy, and as owners, if we pay attention, we're probably very cued into their energy too. And so I think that that's probably most like the kind of communication that these animal communicators use.
I like that, and I like your analogy about about humans. There's people that you automatically know you don't like. I do that all the time.
Yeah, and
I
you were owned a bar. I'm sure you had plenty of those
A
experiences.
lot of them,
Yep.
even in general, like in the bar, I kind of look the other way because,
Sure.
they're paying money, but but,
You can put
I
up a little more crap then.
yeah, and I don't talk to them. I just
Sure.
let them, pay their bill, do their thing, and get out. But, you know, but there are a lot of people I've come across where I just don't like,
Yeah.
and I don't know why without even talking to them.
Yeah, same. And I don't know what it is, but it's just some people are just repulsive. And it's not that they're bad people. It's just that something about it's like a relationship. It's like you can just love somebody dearly and still the relationship just goes wrong. And it's just the energies aren't mixing.
Yeah,
Like you're not compatible. And so
no, yep, and I do a lot of the body. I've learned the body language,
Mhm.
vibe. You could tell someone's a jerk by their body vibe, but or not their body vibe, but the way they carry themselves.
Yes. Yep. I
And as
worked
soon as they
correct.
open their mouth,
Yeah.
yeah, I figured that's what he was or her or whoever.
Yeah. I got really tuned into the body thing too, and maybe empathy as well, working corrections, because it got to the point where you could walk into a room and just know something was up. I mean, it just cued in on it like that. And it would save my bacon several times and working in corrections. Not I didn't live in corrections, I worked in corrections, just to make that real clear.
Right, yeah. You weren't in cell block 6 or anything like that as an inmate.
No, no, I just worked with them, but you get to be able to read people, and same with law enforcement. Those are exceptional body readers, and looking for those little subtle cues. So,
Hey, let me ask this. We never talked about this before. Being that you are you were in corrections, and you spoke to a lot of people, criminals, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know the way they spoke or communicated with you that they were, or was it just like an average Joe, like talking to me? Because I am not a criminal, but were
No.
they, did you get the sense, Brent, that yeah, they're not a good person? More
Some of them,
some.
yeah. Some of them were void of any compassion.
Mm,
Just like they would just as soon cut your throat as talk to you. There was just
really?
nothing there. They were dead inside. Others were just people like you and me. They just had tough choices to make, and they didn't make the right ones, and they got caught, and they just had to deal with that. But yeah, some people were just intrinsically evil. Like it didn't matter what you could say. You couldn't give them any kind of guidance or anything because they just didn't care what you were. You were like a piece of dirt on the floor.
Mm, yeah. Makes sense. I mean, you watch a lot of these. I don't watch a lot of them, but I once in a while I'll binge a couple of these serial killer programs, and I especially like the ones where they get interviewed
Mhm.
by a forensic person, psychologist, psychiatrist, and it's almost like that movie Halloween,
Mhm.
where Dr. Loomis says, talking about Michael Myers, he had soulless eyes. His eyes were dark as the abyss or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of these actual real serial killers that I had, kind of watched the documentaries on, you could just tell, Brent, there's nothing behind those eyes.
No, not a care in the world, not a concern for anything but themselves. Just and it's I don't know. It's like everyone around them is almost like obstacles. That's just what you are as an obstacle, or you're a means to an end. But
Yes.
they're either they can put you to use in some way for them, or you're just in their way. That's like the two roles you have in their eyes, and it's sad. I mean, some of them were just so profoundly broken from a lifetime of living in a very broken situation, like being absolutely brutalized as kids, and growing up in hate and anger, and that's what they became. But some were just empty, and it was just like talking to the shell of a person. Is just uncomfortable as hell.
You think that so I don't know how we got on this topic, but you know how we roll. You know how we roll, Brent. But
Yep.
it's very fascinating to me too. The human mind, the human psyche. Do you think though? Then we'll move on. We're gonna. Well, do you think it's true some people are just inherently born evil, or now in many cases, people that are criminals today, they were brought up abused. They were brought up
Yeah. Environment is a
just in
big
the
key.
environment. The environment plays a big factor in shaping a person's life. I get that. But do you think people are inherently born that way, even if they're brought up in a posh neighborhood with great, fantastic parents? I mean, AKA the Menendez brothers
Mhm. Yeah,
murdering their.
I worked with some people like that had everything. They had the silver spoon. They had everything. The world would have been handed to them, but they still. A lot of times, I think it came from a fascination or a idolization of the gangster culture, which was big during the time I was in corrections. The street gangs, the Bloods, Crips, the Vice Lords, the Kings, all of the different various groups. But when if you didn't grow up in that environment, and if you grew up in the environment, it's easy to see why people cling to the gangs, because you're living in a disempowered state. You probably have real hard circumstances, and the one thing you see is these people that have respect, and people look out for them and get out of their way and stuff. And so I think when you're coming from such a disempowered state, you gravitate towards power. And so these street gangs were powerful in the eyes of these people that had nothing. So they would do that. Now, for the people with the silver spoons, I don't know. It's just it's just some weird idolatry going on where they're like, yeah, I want people to respect me like that, and so they become that as well. So there's both.
Yeah, there's yeah, I like that point because they feel like, hey, I'm this, I'm that, and I think a lot of these people born with a silver spoon in hand that don't have to work for anything, I think they get bored. They get
Yeah.
more fascinated with
Yeah.
doing things that the average person wouldn't think about doing.
Yeah. It's more of a challenge.
You
Just
know,
it's a culture
you could
appropriation, maybe.
you could take it even deeper, which we won't with these billionaires, millionaires that do all these hideous things because they're just bored. They got every car you can have, every house you can have. They've got everything. So what did they do? I think some of us with a lot of money would do quite well with our lives and for society. But I think some of these people that have all that, they get bored and they come up with these things that only money can provide, which is a lot of times ill intentions.
Well, it's power, right? Like
You know,
the one thing they covet is power because they already have the money, they have the objects, they have the station, but
yeah.
they want control. That's the thing that they want now. And so it's a huge fulcrum of problems if that's your value system. But you're right. I think there's plenty of people that have good hearts and they have altruistic views of the world and making a difference. And those people are wonderful with that, but they just want to help. But then there's the other people that just want control.
Yeah. Well, we went a little dark today for you guys.
Merry
We
Christmas,
went
everybody.
Merry Christmas. I told a cool Christmas gnome story and a little shapeshifter story. Then all of a sudden we went down the dark alley,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. No,
paranormal portal.
I got a Christmas story to end with.
Yes, let's do that.
All right. So this is when I was young. I was probably, I don't know, 11 years old. And I was one of those kids that just wanted to believe. I was all in on the Santa thing and it was going to be real. But I was at that age where it was like, well, some of my friends were saying it wasn't real. And I was really struggling with that. And I was staying over at a friend's house. And it was just before Christmas. And he was my best friend at the time. And so we were hanging out. He had this we were in his bedroom and we were both talking about the whole Santa thing and just struggling with it as, these young kids full of, these ideas and stuff and having all that challenged and possibly taken away. And we both were like, no, we want to believe. We want to believe. And no kidding. And my hands to God, this is a true story, but above his bed where we were both laying just on his bed, was like a half window. And outside of the half window was this light, and he had this kind of sheer curtain in front of it, and it would cast a light onto the footboard of his bed. And so we're laying there, and suddenly this little elf head pops up, and no kidding, a little elf head,
Okay.
like about the size of my microphone,
Yeah.
with a little beanie hat. Just the silhouette pops up on the footboard, and we're looking at him like, oh my God. And I turned and looked, and there's nothing blocking the light. It's just the street light outside and this sheer curtain. And it stayed there. And I was like, oh, it's like a little Christmas miracle, like good for you for believing, like that was a good thing. So that's my little Christmas story.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. And I'll tell you one that happened to me really quickly before we wrap it up here. Is I have to cut off a little earlier today. I got something to do, but
Okay.
I don't know if I manifested this or as a young boy, I just dreamt this. I don't think I was dreaming for sure, but I think that maybe it was just my imagination being very vivid because it's kind of hard to tell, especially around Christmas time. You get all worked up as kids because at the time I still believed in Santa Claus. And I remember me and my brother could never fall asleep. We can't wait to wake up in the morning. And of course, me and my brother would always be up at like 4 a.m. And mom and dad are still, want no part of 4 a.m., right?
Like,
So
nope.
so we would get up, man, and yeah, we did. We went in the kitchen, saw that there was a half drank glass of milk. There was a bite out of a cookie. Yeah, and Santa left a little note. Thank you. And of course, we know it was my mom and dad doing all that. We all, and but me and my brother, oh, Santa was here, man. So we run down to the stairs because in the house we lived in, the setup was in a lower level, like a 3-level home we had.
Yep.
And going down the Christmas tree. And now, when I tell you this, I seen this, and I know it had to be something in my mind. It really had to have been. But I saw what appeared to be Santa hunched over, putting out presents under the tree, and he wasn't solid. I could see straight through him to the tree.
Oh,
And then I grabbed my brother. I go, oh my God, you see Santa? Well, of course he didn't.
oh,
And he starts, got sad. And you gotta remember, I'm like 5. He's like, I was maybe 6. He's probably 4. He's 2 years younger than me. And I could have swore, Brent, that I saw Santa. And to that day, I 100% believe in Santa. Today, I don't know what I saw, Brent, but I do remember distinctly seeing a vision,
yeah.
which I think that maybe I popped that in my head, but it makes me wonder.
Well,
It makes me wonder about Santa. Maybe
it's real.
I think he
it's
is real. I think
And
he is.
I think, regardless of the source of the gifts, I think it's the spirit of that's carried with that and becomes imbued in it. So it is a gift from Santa.
I think you're right. And that's the way I believe today. Yeah, I do.
Mhm.
I will go on record, say Santa Claus exists.
I will too.
He exists in all our hearts. This was a great show. I don't have a extra because I'm making a new extra. Hey, Brett, what'd you think about my intro today?
I think it's solid. That's really a great song.
With
Very cool with the video and everything, man.
Yeah, on the pirate ship.
You keep raising the bar, dude. I'm gonna have to start working.
Hey, come on, you gotta keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, you're not keeping up anymore. You're the pace car.
Well, I gotta tell you what though. With AI, man, it's a topic for another day. The pros and cons of that is something else. I hate that we got to step up the AI game just to compete.
Yeah,
on a business sense.
Although I will say this, I mean, you can put a shine on a turd, but in the middle, it's always a turd. So if the show wasn't good, it wouldn't matter how good your.
That's how I look at it. I think all the cute little stuff is cool, but if you don't have a quality show, it don't matter what you do.
And you do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
you do too, by the way. Brett, where we can find you? Where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/paranormal portal. But the best place for all the information about my shows is go to paranormalportal.net, and that'll tell you all my social media and where to find the podcast, and also about the live streams. So
excellent. Yes, which reminds me, I'm going to be working on a website. I think I'm going to do it and get a website. I got to figure out the domain and all that stuff, and then do everything on that and start having everything under that.
Go to GoDaddy. Really stupid easy.
It's stupid easy. Okay, including my new store. I'm gonna come up with a new store and start selling some stuff online.
Good for you.
But very cool. But I'm not gonna. I have a store. There's like 100,000 items in it. I'm like, Rob, what are you doing? I keep adding shit to it. Excuse me, gosh. So I actually took it down. There's just too much. I'm gonna redo it.
Rob's Walmart.
It's right. Rob's Walmart. Come to the Walmart shop. We got it all. Headgear all the way down to I don't know, chandeliers, whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. I mean, that just popped in my head. Chandeliers.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody for coming on and hit that like button. Thanks to Pops for the awesome super chat. I appreciate that. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new. To myself, Brent Thomas. You can see him, watch him throughout the week, and on his podcast as well. I like the podcast you put out. You're on all the platforms.
Yeah.
So today is, of course, Thursday. I think tonight's the Blondes and the Booze at 9:00 in the East. With that being said, everybody, I don't have an exit, so I'm just going to end the stream abruptly. Love y'all. Thank you. Good night. Good afternoon. Whatever.